And so it is clear to me that this particular communication falls within the purview of Executive Order 30. And I'm directly calling on you and all of our metro agencies to ensure that we have good standard operating policies and procedures. Same question for you, Deputy Chief Gilder. In line with that executive order, are there designated individuals in each precinct who are responsible for communicating whether or not there are any communications with federal immigration authorities to the mayor's office?
So every MNPD employee is expected to report communication in conformance with Executive Order 30. It was Executive Order 8 under the prior administration, and we did annual training on it as required by the Executive Order. And they're expected to fill out the form that is included in the roll call training, explains how to get to it, how to fill it out. It's a web-based form. It comes directly to me, and then I make that report to the Mayor's Office of New Americans.
On Sunday, May 4th, did you receive any such communications? Was there any kind of reports like that you just referenced that would come directly to you? Did you receive anything like that?
So in this particular incident, we started learning about the communication from other sources, from council members and whatnot, prior to through the online reporting process. Those reports have been made though since that time in accordance with the executive order.
Okay, understanding that, but my direct question is, on Sunday the 4th, had you received any of those reports? Understanding that they've been filled out since, but on Sunday the 4th, directly through MNPD, had you received any of those reports?
Like I said, the reports came via different format, not the online web-based report. They were reported up through the chain of command that day. The chain started trying to figure out what's going on and what the call was related to. So that was how the notification was made on that day. To ensure conformity with the executive order, we since made those reports via the normal reporting process.
Thank you for that answer, because in listening to the radio call outs from dispatch, I wrote it down, but I might be misquoting it here. It stated directly that Homeland Security is asking for extra patrols in relation to detentions. Many of you have heard me oftentimes speaking on this council floor about the importance of our institutional integrity, and we have exposed a major gap in our institutional integrity. It is really incumbent that we make sure that we have those standard operating procedures and that every single person in every single department understands what their responsibility is as it relates to this executive order. It goes without saying that I am concerned about this. I want to move forward about other forms of support that were provided on Sunday, May 4th. But before doing that, I want to back up and sort of talk generally about MNPD's aviation unit. Chief Gilder, could you talk to us about what the standard operating procedure of the aviation unit is? In particular, how are decisions made when the aviation unit is deployed, and who is the person who's making that decision? But if you could talk about that, please.
Sure. So the aviation division has regular operating hours that they cover. They're typically working 12-hour shifts, and they're providing coverage most of the day, depending on the day of the week, and depending upon weather and other factors, maintenance and whatnot. And typically, when they are working, they conduct patrols that are sometimes just up in the air, proactively engaging in patrol, ready to respond to an incident, so that because there's obviously a time it takes to get the aircraft ready to get it airborne. And then other instances, they are dispatched by a request from an officer in the field, supervisor, and under policy, a supervisor has the ability to call out aviation if they need some air support. For instance, if they're not working and maybe somebody goes missing in the woods and that sort of thing, they can do a call out and request their assistance.
Thank you. And Madam Chair, if we could have Councilmember Sepulveda recognized for a brief moment. She has an exhibit or that I think would be helpful for us to look at.
Sure, I'll recognize Councilmember.
Thank you, Chair. If we could pull up in the folder that has the pictures. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. And it should be the last one. Unnamed. Yep. Should be that one. There we go.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Brackett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So what we have on the screen is a screenshot from social media. I cannot read the caption from here because my eyes are not that good. But essentially, this appears to be or is an MNPD helicopter that is providing supports on May 4th at the ICE facility. My question is, who made the decision to call out this helicopter, and what was the specific purpose, and what was any tactical benefit to Metro that we gained from having a Metro helicopter flying over the ICE facility?
So my understanding is that the morning after officers responded, that there was folks beginning to gather at the facility, and before the Metro Police had been relieved by state and federal law enforcement to take over security, that the officers that were there requested aviation to do a flyover to determine the number of folks that were in attendance, which I will tell you is pretty standard when we have protester gatherings, if we're trying to determine crowd size and make plans with respect to contingency planning for their safety and for everyone's safety. We have to call officers available and that sort of thing. So they were trying to get a crowd estimate.
Talk about over policing.
Roll the tape, play the call.
Jesus.
Chair Brackett, did you have?
I've got a few follow-ups with that.
Okay.
Sorry, just gathering my thoughts about the chair's indulgence for a brief moment.
Yes.
To drown out questions.
So, understanding, you said that the officers who were on the ground called out for the aviation sport, right?
My understanding is that, yes, somebody that was responded with the MNPD that responded there that morning, when the crowd began amassing, there was a request made to aviation. I don't know who exactly was.
Here, I'm gonna see the rest of my time and gather some of my thoughts and potentially come back.
Okay, thank you. Next, we're gonna go to Chair Rowe. Recognize.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. And I first want to thank you so much for calling this meeting. Thank you so much to the community, everyone coming out to speak. And I have a couple of questions. The first one for Deputy Chief Pilter. You were mentioning earlier that, crime is down in Nashville. So can you share what is the most recent crime statistics that we have over the from year to date or over the last 12 months?
Sure. Overall, Part 1 offenses are down about 8%. I would, if you give me a minute, I can pull up some data about if you've got questions about specific offenses. We're down in most categories. There's a couple of offenses that we're slightly up.
Great, thank you. And, I wanted to know, if you can also break down maybe where the top, areas that we are seeing, higher crime in Davidson County based on the data that you have, if you can share that.
What parts of Davidson County are experiencing more crime? That'll take me a little bit more time because that would be parts of that. It's not in I can pretty quickly access a weekly report that we generate that breaks down crime by category. It doesn't necessarily, I don't have an analysis on hand with respect to crime in a particular part of the county. I can obviously get that, but that's not as easily accessible.
Sure, if you can, because I'm trying to get to the point where, we want to understand as the community, the areas that were targeted, from Nolensville Pike, Murfreesboro Pike, Harding Place, Bell Road. Where did these fall in comparison to, the overall crime, and trying to get and paint that picture of clear understanding? for our community.
One thing that may be helpful in that regard is each month we produce a report with respect to crime in the council district. So you may have that in your inbox, but I'm also happy to look into that for you as well.
Yeah, if you can specifically, just like whenever Councilmember Sora was talking about what the stops look like 2 weeks prior, and if we can just overlap that, I think that'd be very helpful. And then my next question is for, Director Martini. I just wanted to follow up whenever you were discussing about, changes that you all will be making, with standard operating procedures. Can you, give us, or provide a date and, and a commitment to when those will be updated and share the changes that have been made, addressing the gaps that we have uncovered due this past weekend, and then come back to the council and present that?
Sure, absolutely. And for now, I can tell you, we made changes. I understand Councilmember Protti's concern about having an individual make a report. We have 186 operational dispatch employees, requiring 186 individuals every call, every day, every week to remember every time some exception event to do that right. I think it's a lot to ask of them when their focus is so heavily on emergency incidents that are happening in front of them. So we really rely heavily on automation now. So we engaged with our technology yesterday when we determined this gap. A lack of knowledge about the call. We knew it was created on Sunday. We didn't catch that it was called in on Thursday and created in the CAD later. So we've created notifications automatically inside of our computer-aided dispatch system that are working now for one specific address that is a federal facility of this one. And we'll grow that list to include other sensitive locations, and then also engage in separate software to send notifications on keywords, right? Immigration and ICE, those types of go.
Right on.
Trigger, and those go to 3 of us to see immediately and then engage immediately. So absolutely, we can bring some shape to that standard operating procedure and share it here, of course.
Okay, thank you so much. And, I just think back to a time when I was in elementary school and I was driving with my father and my siblings, and we got pulled over, by the police. And my dad got a ticket because he didn't have his lights on, but it was still daylight. And I still hold and remember this stop. I mean, for decades, remember, were we being racially profiled? Like, why were we pulled over? It makes no sense, and that ticket, back when I was elementary school, cost a lot of money. And that caused, our family, stress. And, I think about all the families that went through that I'm still holding today as an adult that they experienced a few days ago. And, for me, the community has asked, they've been asking for months. Instead of focusing on guardrails, instead of focusing on abuses, why are we not focusing on a community safety plan? And my question to you all is, will you commit to creating a safety plan in partnership with the community and making that a priority over the next 30 days? This is something why does it have to take 150 families being torn apart for us to make immigrants and people of color a priority in the city?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that is what's been so frustrating, is that seeing that, it needs to happen for it to matter. And I want our city to be a city that doesn't wait for people to be harmed, doesn't wait for families to not have their parent come home, to not have their kid not know where their parent is, for us to say, oh, we need to make some changes. Oh, we need to improve our standard operating procedures. Because if it happened to your family, what would you do? You would be angry too. And you would not accept that this is acceptable. And I stand for every family who is living in fear, because I know what that is like. And I don't want that for anyone else. And I really ask for you all, will you commit to this? Because this is important to the people of Nashville.
Do you have an answer?
That was a
Did
question.
y'all want to, have some comment
Oh,
on
yeah, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, the MMPD is absolutely committed to working with our community, getting their feedback about what it is they need and what they want from their police department. And I think that's reflected in the fact that we've engaged, I mean, year to date, we've engaged in over 348 community events. Commander Laura can talk very specifically about the level of engagement that we do at the precinct level, because each precinct's different, each community is different. And we try to engage every single one of those within our precincts. And if you want to hear a little bit from Commander Laura about that, I'm happy to also, kick it over to him, let him talk about that. But absolutely, community engagement is Chief Drake's one of his three core pillars. The police department is the community, and the community is the police department. We cannot function and address crime if we don't have community support.
Engagement isn't the same as safety. You engage with people when you arrest them.
Simply put, I echo that. Really, our department is, we're not completely reactive, but we are heavily reactive to phone calls from the public, right? See something, say something. We've been saying for 25 years. The say something comes to our department, and we're the send part of that help. See, say, send is really our lane. I've cringed to think that we would create an environment, especially within the Department of Emergency Communications with the public, that there's a fear or hesitation to call for help, because that's the only way we know there's help that needs help, needs to be sent. So absolutely, engaging in conversations about how we continue to support those conversations, and people feel trust in reaching out, that if they see and say what is happening, they're going to get the right help to the right place at the right time. That is our only purpose.
Well, it'd be great if there's some
excuse me, ma'am.
on this, and I
We're going to
believe,
continue
but
the
if there
chair
could
vote,
be
please.
some little bit of passion up there, it would
right.
really help, because it's
Thank
all
you
over here.
so
We
much,
wanna
and I do want, if we can, what I'm asking for, the commitment is to get a meeting like scheduled with legal, MMPD, the mayor's office, DEC, whoever needs to be there, and like to have it set so that we are not just saying it here and then forgetting about it. And then I also want to know, like, if y'all are willing also, if this is a priority, when we talk about the safety plan, prioritizing the communities that have been harmed, would you commit to, funding in your budget to address this? And so I want, I would like to know and understand if y'all are willing to look at that as well in this year's budget.
Well, I believe this year's budget's been submitted, the mayor submitted the budget, so I don't know that if it needs to modification at this point in the process. Absolutely, we're willing to commit to a meeting to, discuss the ideas that you have with respect to the safety plan, maybe there are other partners within Metro, so yes, I can commit to that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm sorry, Director Matheny, did you have something?
Just to that point, in this budget, we have requested 5 additional dispatch personnel to staff the Southeast Precinct Radio, which specifically serves this part of the Southeast Precinct Radio, which specifically serves this part
Share, is that like a chair resolution?
Las pruebas que presentaron tanto las organizaciones civiles de Newell, que se encontraba en gas que han monitoreado durante todas estas pandemias las situaciones locales y que han notado la presencia de la policía médica en diferentes lugares en donde se han realizado estos operativos de tránsito. Con estas pruebas principales de casos de inmigrantes han resultado haya posible respuestas a el por qué ellos quieren mantener sus familias unidas, presidente que vivamos acá, porque están colaborando. Ellos presentaron pruebas en donde justifican que el apoyo de la policía metro en el lugar donde estaban detenidos gratis fueron parados y que posteriormente se llevaron a autobuses aquí en Fonlab Security. Ellos respondieron a llamadas de emergencia y que ellos no colaboraron con el departamento. Sin embargo, al decir que el centro de emergencia se llamada el primero de mayo, jueves, acerca de lo que podría suceder en operativos en que estamos solicitando cultura extra, apoyo de la policía, donde pueda suceder operativos en la sede de Security. Les hizo ver tanto a la audiencia como a los concejales presentes que tanto la oficina de justicia de la cadena general como la policía estaba al tanto de lo que iba a suceder en esos días. Una de las fotografías que ellos designaron además fue en helicóptero de unas personas que a través de redes sociales dejaron ver que la policía metro, el helicóptero de la policía metro, estaba volando sobre las áreas en donde se estaba solicitando el apoyo. Y me preguntaron por qué el helicóptero estaba prestando apoyo, quién autorizó este apoyo. Posteriormente, uno de los concejales también hizo aportación a que desafortunadamente los niños como que escuelas metro se presentaron de semana. Perdón, después de semana se presentaron las escuelas más pequeñas bajan mucho los índices de estas escuelas de esos distritos en donde obviamente la población blanca tiene una línea. Es por ello que siguen demandando respuestas se espera también la data de el crimen, en cuáles son las áreas en donde estos crímenes tienen alta necesidad para poder así definir por qué estos operativos se hicieron en calles en donde la comunidad inmigrante normalmente frecuente quiere saber si esas calles con las áreas que tienen mayor índice de crimen en el condado de Iris. Otra de las situaciones donde la consejería cuida pruebas la presencia en los lugares aparentemente migración apoyados o algo también preguntaron hasta dónde los tropas pueden realmente ser entrar en nuestra ciudad a lo que se quedaban las leyes del condado de Iris son libres que él está buscando la ley, pero que no la consigue en realidad para poder llegar a ella. Pero prometió que él iba a lograr todos los logros de las personas que fueron llevadas a iniciadas a decisión de Juan Seguir y también pidieron que la audiencia fuera regresado a casa porque ellos no fueron detenidos o con procedimiento correcto. Básicamente, esta fue lo que sucedió durante las últimas horas y minutos desde el Consejo de Nashville.